In the near future, a devastating illness known as the Maze virus sweeps across Europe, turning those infected into violent zombies. While most countries manage to contain the outbreak, Ireland suffers catastrophic losses. A cure is eventually developed but proves effective for only 75% of the infected, leaving the remaining 25%, called the resistant, immune to treatment and held in captivity. Public opinion grows hostile, with many demanding the resistant be executed to prevent future outbreaks. The cured individuals, called the cured, regain their humanity but retain memories of their time as zombies, often leading to severe PTSD. Among them is Senan, who struggles with haunting visions of his past. One day, he checks his reflection to calm himself, noticing the telltale vein pattern marking him as cured. His friend Connor visits, and the two lament that life may never truly return to normal. Senan later meets Sergeant Cantor, his rehabilitation officer, and shares that he was infected for 4 years and suffers from nightmares. Cantor sees this as a good thing, believing the cured should remember the harm they caused. Cantor surprises Senan by announcing that his sister-in-law Abigail will take him in, an unusual arrangement as most cured are sent to accommodation centers due to public distrust. Abigail, a reporter and widow of Senan's brother Luke, lives with her son Killian. When Senan arrives, she welcomes him warmly but asks about Luke's last moments. Senan lies, claiming they were separated during the evacuation. That night, Senan recalls the truth. During the chaos of the outbreak, Luke tried to save him, but Senan was bitten and begged his brother to flee before succumbing to the infection. Meanwhile, Connor struggles with his new life. Once a lawyer, he now works as a cleaner and faces rejection from his father, who calls him a monster for killing his mother during his zombie state. At work, Senan assists Dr. Joan in handling Joe, a restrained resistant who reacts violently to her presence but allows Senan to approach. Joan explains that traces of the virus remain in the cured, enabling the resistant to recognize them. The hostility toward the cured is evident when Abigail is judged by other parents for taking Senan in, and their home is vandalized with hateful graffiti. Tensions escalate as the government plans to execute the resistant by the end of the week, a move Joan opposes on ethical grounds. Connor, angered by the societal rejection, forms the Cured Alliance, a group fighting for their rights. Senan reluctantly joins but becomes horrified when their actions escalate to arson, resulting in a soldier's death. The government brands the Alliance a terrorist organization, further marginalizing the cured. As Senan's flashbacks intensify, he recalls the devastating truth: Connor was the one who bit him, and during his time as a zombie, Senan killed his brother Luke, in the very house Abigail now calls home. This revelation threatens to unravel everything as Senan grapples with his guilt and the consequences of his past. One afternoon at the doctor's office, Senan discovers a photograph of Joan and Joe together, revealing that they were a couple who developed the cure before Joe was infected. Later at home, Abigail questions Senan about his late-night outings, suspecting he's attending Cured Alliance meetings. He denies it, and she shares the pain of finding her husband Luke's lifeless body during the outbreak. To comfort her, Senan takes Abigail and Killian to a scenic spot outside the city, a place he and Luke loved as children. That evening, Connor visits Senan at Abigail's home. Tensions rise when Abigail mentions supporting euthanasia for the resistant to prevent further outbreaks, though she defends the rights of the cured, arguing they weren't in control of their actions. Connor challenges her, asking if she could forgive her husband's killer. Abigail becomes upset and leaves. Afterward, Senan confronts Connor about lying about targeting empty houses during the Alliance's actions and declares he's quitting. The next day, while Senan takes Killian to school, Sergeant Cantor visits Abigail under the pretext of checking on families with cured members. During the visit, Cantor implies that zombies exhibit coordinated behavior, hunting as a pack. He leaves Abigail a confidential file, which contains disturbing photographs of Senan and Connor during their time as zombies. Troubled, Abigail sneaks into the accommodation center to investigate, and captures footage of cured individuals engaging in synchronized behavior, further fueling her suspicions. Abigail stumbles upon a Cured Alliance meeting where Connor is rallying support for his cause. She confronts him about his role in the bombings and repeats Cantor's theory about zombies hunting in packs, arousing Connor's suspicion. As she attempts to leave, Abigail is pursued and barely escapes with her life. Meanwhile, Joan discovers that soldiers have begun euthanizing resistant individuals, including Joe. Despite Joan's desperate pleas, the soldiers restrain Joe and prepare to take her away. That night, Joan secretly meets with Connor, hinting at her growing desperation. At home, Abigail's house is vandalized again. A masked intruder breaks in, attacking Senan and scrawling hateful graffiti before fleeing. The police dismiss the attack as another instance of anti-Cured sentiment. Distraught and seeking protection, Senan reconsiders and rejoins the Cured Alliance, though Abigail remains suspicious. When Abigail discovers that her camera's memory card, containing footage of the Alliance, has been stolen, she contacts Cantor and informs him of Connor's plans. This betrayal sets off a chain of events. The soldiers raid the accommodation center, violently suppressing the rebels. Connor and most members escape, but Senan is captured and interrogated. Refusing to cooperate, Senan is eventually released due to a lack of evidence. Later, Connor confronts Abigail and reveals the truth about Luke's death. Senan, while infected, killed him. Abigail demands answers from Senan, who finally confesses, leading to her devastated decision to throw him out of the house. Senan meets with Connor, furious about the revelation. Their argument is interrupted by Cantor, who attempts to arrest them. Connor brutally kills Cantor, accusing Senan of tipping him off. When sirens approach, Connor declares that the rebels' plan is already underway and flees. The next day, the Alliance infiltrates the treatment center, disguised as medical staff. They execute guards and unlock Joe's cell, but one rogue rebel releases all the resistant, ignoring Joan's protests. Chaos ensues as soldiers arrive, opening fire on escaping resistant. Amid the violence, a planted bomb explodes, allowing the resistant to flee en masse. In the aftermath, Senan searches the wreckage and finds Joe still in her cell, untouched by the carnage. Senan escapes the treatment center amid the chaos, finding the zombies outside attacking and feeding on soldiers. Back inside, Joan notices Joe has not left her cell. She joins Joe, sitting beside her. In a tender moment, the two women hold hands and share a kiss, but a crazed resistant suddenly leaps on Joan, biting her. At home, Abigail hears growling outside and arms herself with an axe. When a zombie charges at her, she quickly takes it down. More zombies appear, but soldiers arrive, evacuating the area. Abigail tries to go to Killian's school, but the soldiers forcibly take her to a quarantine camp instead. Meanwhile, Senan navigates the chaotic streets, dodging zombies and soldiers, and sees Abigail being taken away. She screams at him to save Killian. Senan reaches the school, finding children being evacuated while their teacher is eaten by a zombie. Shouting for Killian, he finally locates him hiding nearby. Senan picks up his nephew and starts running, unaware that Connor is watching. A few blocks away, Connor confronts Senan with a zombie. Connor orders the zombie to attack Killian, forcing Senan to tell the boy to run while he fends off the creature. As Senan fights, Connor strikes him with a pipe, immobilizing him. More zombies chase after Killian. When Senan attempts to follow, Connor beats him down. During the struggle, a stray bullet fired by soldiers strikes Connor, wounding him. Senan considers finishing him off but hears Killian's cries for help. Choosing to prioritize his nephew, Senan runs to find Killian under a car, surrounded by zombies. He fights them off with a pipe, grabs Killian, and escapes. However, Connor vanishes amidst the chaos. At the quarantine zone, Abigail demands that the cured be allowed in, but a guard punches her in retaliation. Enraged, the cured storm the zone, causing chaos. Abigail uses the distraction to sneak away, eventually finding herself in a desolate area. She encounters a dead soldier, but when the soldier reanimates as a zombie, Abigail kills him. Exhausted and traumatized, she makes her way home. Senan arrives home with Killian, who runs to hug Abigail. Their relief is short-lived when a zombie suddenly lunges at them and bites Killian. Senan kills the zombie in a fit of rage and despair. Abigail considers ending Killian's life to prevent his transformation, but Senan takes the boy, vowing to keep him safe until he can find a cure. He leaves with Killian, leaving Abigail behind to grieve. Days later, the news announces that order has been restored, though 8,000 zombies remain in captivity. The government continues euthanizing the resistant, claiming it's the only way to eradicate the virus. Connor has become the face of the rebellion, his image plastered on posters across the city. Abigail, haunted by thoughts of her son, finds hope when she hears a news report about a group of infected people on the run in the countryside. Smiling faintly, she realizes Senan and Killian are among them, doing their best to survive.